Hello everybody, this is Dr. Tausman, and now we're going to start covering Chapter 9 from your Physiological Psychology book, Wakefulness and Sleep. Boy, there's a lot to this particular topic, but once again my purpose is to kind of share with you some of the key details and insights that I've learned over the years. It's kind of interesting for me. I haven't actually presented a lecture or presentation on sleep and arousal for many years, so I had to kind of go back and do some back digging here to make sure that all the stuff I used to know was still actually true from the science. So we're going to kind of take a tour of very selective topics here. This is one of 3 topics. You could spend weeks on any one of these topics, but this is an ADP class. This is physiological psychology. I hope I can highlight some of the key things for you folks that you might in fact care about and be interested to learn, and then let you kind of read up on some other things yourself. And we will kind of follow a pattern from the book. So we start off with the idea of pulling an all-nighter. I sense many of you in the ADP program have at times had to pull all-nighters, and what I'm interested to know about is, how do you actually get through that? How do you actually get through the night? Some of you even work the night shift. Is that easy? Is that difficult? What you may in fact notice, and what usually happens for a lot of people, is when you stay on the overnight, usually the most difficult times to stay awake are between the hours of 2 and 6 a.m. Then it seems the body really wants to go to sleep between those times, and if you look at accidents on the roads and accidents in other places, they usually are very high during those times. It's interesting, around 6, 7 in the morning, usually people kind of, even if they've stayed up all night, kind of start waking up a bit. So the question is, why does that occur? And that's where we actually start our journey here. The reason those things occur, according to Chapter 9 and according to what I know, are because of biological rhythms your body has called circadian rhythms. Not to be confused with the little bugs that were flying around Roanoke this summer, which are 17-year cicadas. That was a bad joke. But hey, hopefully you're not too sleep deprived like I am. Anyway, circadian rhythms are the basically the biological rhythm your body follows. And in this particular one, there is one for light and dark. And so we know the body has a biological clock for sleeping and for being awake. And so the circadian rhythm is that rhythm that basically controls when you go to sleep and when you wake up. Now, obviously, if you look on 308 and 309, we all tend to have better times where we're doing better things and we're more awake. They talk a lot about night owls, morning person, and so certainly people can change depending on their time. That is good for them. I myself tend to be more of a night person. So the question is, what are some of the things that control that? And obviously the most important one for the sleep-wake cycle is light. Light is a very important cue, and as you know, if you've ever done night shift work, what do they try to do to kind of re-regulate your clock if you're working a night job? Flash on the bright light so that things kind of recalibrate in your system. So one of the key structures, and there are going to be a number of key structures in this unit, is called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Now, of course, that gets its name because the suprachiasmatic nucleus used to be on Broadway, was in Las Vegas, and it was just so charismatic that they came up with it. No, you're not buying any of this, I hope, are you? No, the suprachiasmatic nucleus is basically a structure that is right above your optic chiasm, which is one of your key vision centers as information goes up to your brain. And it was in 1967 Kurt Richter discovered the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and this seems to be the key structure that really regulates a lot of key elements of the light-dark cycle. It's actually considered part of the hypothalamus. It's considered part of the hypothalamus, and if you think about it, if you know anything about the hypothalamus, you know that that actually controls your endocrine system. So a lot of hormones are released vis-a-vis the hypothalamus and some of the other organs in your body. So the fact that your light-dark cycle is controlled by your hypothalamus, and in particular the suprachiasmatic nucleus, actually makes a great deal of sense. So this is the structure. This structure, the hypothalamus as well, controls things like eating, controls things like body temperature, which for a lot of people, when you go to sleep at night, in order to sleep well, your body temperature goes down. So the suprachiasmatic nucleus is the key area. One other point that I liked as far as what the book had to say, at least the book had to say when I had my eyeglasses on, which I have to use for the first time as I get closer to the age of 50, is, have you ever thought about how is it that if somebody is blind, that they actually have a good light-dark cycle? Well, the answer is actually on 311. It turns out that in this area of the brain that's controlling the light-dark cycle, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, there are basically two types of receptors there. There's one, a photoreceptor, which analyzes color and the stimulus, but then there's the non-visual photoreceptor, so even if somebody is blind, light still comes in and can still set the biological clock. So we've got visual photoreceptors, non-visual photoreceptors. Another very important gland that really works to help the biological clock is the pineal gland. If you look on page, 311, and if you want to maybe do a little search on finding some of these key structures and do a neuroanatomy picture of sleep centers, maybe I'll do that as well. You can see where this is. This structure has a great deal of what's called melatonin in it. And as it turns out, very interestingly, melatonin is very related to serotonin. As it turns out, serotonin is considered the precursor for melatonin. And as many of you know, people who have depression, a serotonergic-based problem, many times have problems with sleep as well. And so there seems to be a balance of these things. One of the things we also know, and many of you probably know this as well, is light. Light therapy can sometimes be quite useful, as you read on the bottom of, 311, that if you put light into the system, it can actually reset the clock. The clock is actually set for 25 hours, not 24. That's why people tend to stay up later many times if things go unregulated. So light therapy can really go in there. It might help with depression, it might help with melatonin, and it might help with seasonal affective disorder. So I think that's what I have to say. That's 7 minutes and 20 seconds, so we'll cut this one at this point.